Hello everyone. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 65 of the Gut Wrench podcast. My name is Mocha. As you all more than likely already know, today I really don't have any witty openings or like episode 1 was, and that's how I got to Grandma's house, and every episode since then has had some witty, funny, somewhat satirical opening, and I usually do that because I'm bad at starting conversations, and the thing of it, the thing that really is the catalyst behind all that is just my lack of social skills and social interactions in the real world. You see, I'm so dense that I feel as though that the smartest person in the room, which would be myself, right? Because I'm in a room full of me and 3 cats, like, all the time, and, I feel as though that the smartest person in the room is the person worth talking to. This past week, however, has been very impactful for me in particular. So, let me set you sort of a landscape, paint you a picture, if you will. Here's what's been taking place. 1, my uncle has started to bully me again because he recently got out of jail. And I guess, seeing as though that he can't take the hint that I'm not interested in, 1, talking to him, 2, acknowledging his existence, or like in passing, I won't even say hello to him. I won't say, hi, how you doing, I won't acknowledge that he exists. I went out, I got some pepper spray in case he tries to say something else, or for that matter, in case he puts hands on me. I also have a taser, but I usually don't keep it on me. The taser also has an alarm on it. It's kind of like one of those ambulance, yeah, and then if I flip the button twice, then it makes, like, have you ever heard Scott Steiner's entrance music? It kind of makes that. If you're a wrestling fan, then you'll understand that. After the holler, if you hear me, all that, yeah. I don't know, it's really hard to explain. But this past week, I also went ahead and decided that it was a good idea to watch a movie that was recommended to me through Peacock. So, if some of you don't know something about me, I could go on days about myself, because I'm just so egotistical. I swear I can't stand myself. Or, other people can't stand me, rather. One of the things that I watched was, and as I said before, if you don't know anything about me, then you're not going to understand where this is coming from, but I'm somewhat of a feminist, but I'm not like a die-hard feminist, I would side with women more than I would side with men, though. If I know it sounds kind of weird. I'm not like, I'm not batting for the other side of the team as far as like, sexual orientation goes. But I'm what you would call overly unbiased, and I feel as though that I'm somewhat a part of the problem just because I am a man. It's one of those "you're raping me with your eyes" thing. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'll keep my eyes down at the ground. Even though a small part of me knows I'm not even touching you, not even with my eyes, It's a weird part of the internet if you haven't explored it. But anyway, what I mean to say is that this past week I watched a movie that was somewhat controversial, and it was recommended to me through Peacock as one of their newest features. Some things you might like, I'm pretty sure is what it's called, and then they might put like a playlist of things that they feel like you might like or whatever. And whenever I went and clicked on it, it said that it had 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. The name of this movie is called She Said. Now, a lot of the movie itself, before we get into today's itinerary and what we will be talking about, which is kind of ironic because I already talked about something that's happening in my personal family life, and if you know anything about that person, before I get to She Said, which was the movie that I watched this past week, but if you know anything about that person that I'm talking about, my uncle in question, you know that he's very disrespectful, and he tries to get a rise out of you regardless of how or where he can get his rise. You know, his ultimate goal is to piss you off and then walk away happy, you know, and not in a wrestling heel kind of way, you know, but whenever he gets mad, you know, no one's allowed to be happy, because if he's mad, then everybody around him has to be miserable too. It's kind of weird. Like, he's happy if you're mad, but if you're happy that he's upset about something, then he won't be happy anymore. I know that makes just not even a lick of sense, but it's almost a reverse psychology type shit. So whenever I'm not acknowledging him or I'm not paying any attention to him, it hurts him. It kills him, you know, because he's used to being the center of attention. Matter of fact, I'm giving him so much attention right now, and he's not even in the room. But if he was in the room, I wouldn't be talking about him. I wouldn't be talking to him, you know, and he's never going to hear this. Honest to God, he doesn't even know that I have a podcast, a broadcast that I do every week. And for that matter, even if he does hear it, I'm talking about him. I'm not talking to him. Anyway, the movie. I'm sorry that I'm going, you know, sideways here, but it's very important that you understand I knew nothing of anything that Harvey Weinstein had done. So whenever I was watching this movie, She Said, it was kind of like one of those things where I was like, okay, where's the conflict to the movie? Because most of the movie, 5 minutes, not even 11 minutes rather. I remember I made a note here, 11 minutes in, and this woman gets sent shit in an envelope. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Help. The movie that goes by the name The Help is rather a controversial movie about slavery in some way or another. And there's a part in the movie where one of the slaves brings one of the slave owners a pie, and then she ends up eating the pie. The slave owner does, and while she's eating the pie, she asks her, you know, what'd you put in the pie? It's really good. Oh my God. So they're having conversation aside from what's in the pie, you know, and the slave owner doesn't realize what she's eating. The slave looks at her and just tells her, and you might want to stop eating that. It's got shit in it. She walks away. And that woman is just like, that slave owner woman, she's just like, oh, 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 oh. You know, like, it's the nastiest thing that she's ever ate in her life. But she was chowing down on it like it was some glorious snack. It's got Emma Roberts in it, if you haven't seen it. So maybe that's a testament to the fact that you should go watch it if you're an Emma Roberts fan. But back to the task at hand here. Today's episode is about respect. You heard me correctly. Respect. Now, a lot of you might be shaking your head, or for that matter, scratching your head. I do apologize for the brief interruption. Someone just walked through my front door, and as I've stated in the past, I basically live beside of my front door, beside of my living room. So they walked by my room twice. Anyway, a lot of you might be scratching your head because why would we be talking about respect whenever the individual in question, Mocha, has continuously rammed Kevin Owens down a rabbit hole that if he were to hear all of these recordings in a succession, or for that matter in one setting, he wouldn't understand. Like, you guys are going to understand the irony in this episode where we're talking about respect, where I'm constantly disrespecting two individuals, but in my IRL life, I'm getting disrespected by at least one individual. That individual that I just got done mentioning just walked through my front door because whenever he walks, he makes a funny noise. And apparently also, he's like 2 months away from dying. Either that or that's just a ploy to get me to talk to him again. So I guess we'll have to see in like a month or so if he's still alive. But for all intents and purposes, the countdown that he told me happened last week. So if we're counting backwards from 60, 55, 52 days until, he's kicking the bucket practically, because he did say that he has a month or two to live. So 2 months maximum. Anyway, had that been the case, it's not going to hurt my feelings regardless of whether he's dead or alive, because I've got no respect. There's that word again. I've got no respect for individuals who constantly put themselves in harm's way, or for that matter, individuals who have no respect for me. Individuals who've burned my house down whenever I was a child, and yes, sure, that's petty. All of this stuff I planned on not talking about on here, rather to waste precious airtime and talk about woe is me, all my problems. This is just the My Problems podcast, but rather I wanted to condense it into a book. However, upon further inspection, the book that I was working on has no backup, and wouldn't you know it, the laptop that I used to record from, it will not turn on. So guess who has to start over from their memoirs that they already had typed out? I'm already a slow typer, and I don't know much about grammar or anything else for that matter. I figure if I can get the money together, I'll just pay someone to write the damn book for me. But in order to do that, they're going to have to sit down and interview me. This is starting to become a very long intro. I know. I've already said, my name's Mocha. Thank you all for joining me, and this is the Gut Wrench Podcast. Don't worry, you're in the right spot. Episode number 65. Anyway, I put down a whole bunch of notes for what I presume to be a retrospective of Harvey Weinstein. For some reason, he refuses to acknowledge Rose McGavin's rape allegations, and the reasoning seems to be because she didn't tell anyone right away. That's a whole bunch of bogus bullshit. I've watched a lot of Law and Order SVU, so I think that this makes me a prime candidate for practically being an expert on the whole rape thing. Not only that, but in the past, I've talked about, and if you need an episode reference, it's called A Story of a Girl and something else. But just remember that in the episode, I talked about a certain ex-girlfriend that I have had in the past who had actually given me the name. It's a very wholesome story, Mocha. So, had that been the case, Mocha, the persona that I play on this podcast today, probably wouldn't be here had it not been for the certain rape victim that I spoke about on that certain episode. Also, I wanted to put a chapter in the book about her too, but nonetheless, I'm trying not to get too much off the topic. Once again, today's topic, respect. In that, whenever I talked to her, she did not want to ruin the relationship between her mother and this man, her supposed father, who was raping her. And she felt as though that she was the problem. She told me many different times throughout her flashbacks and her PTSD and stuff like that, not to mention the fucking fact that she would have to see him at family gatherings, and she would have to see him in certain family outings and events, and, you know, even though her mom and her dad were separated, you know, like certain, I'm looking for a word and I can't think of what it's called. You know, it's one of those things wherever your family gets together, you know, your dad's side, your mom's side, your uncle's side, you know, and all of them, you know, they reconvey in one spot, and then they'll bring like, oh, Uncle Harry, did you bring the potato salad? Yes, I did. I bring it every year. You know, oh, you want to play horseshoes? You lose every year. Why would you play horseshoes against me? You know I can beat you in Mario. Something like that, you know, just dumb stuff. You know, you want to play chase the chicken, pet the donkey, whack-a-mole? You know, I don't know what you do at family gatherings like that. But I can't think of the word, and I don't know why. Anyway, I don't want to say her name, but she did not want to tell her mom that her dad was raping her in fear that she would, you know, like the whole, he's not hurting you or he hasn't done anything to you. She's not gonna, like, this strong relationship between a mother-daughter being broken because someone accuses. And then of course the dad's gonna say, no, I didn't, I never done any of that, but he continuously did it over and over and over and over again, you know. And that's just disrespectful, if I'm being honest. But anyway, yeah, I know. I should have started this one. I should have started the event sooner. 500 plus chanting the word respect in unison after a great strong hype package that's one of the better openings in a pay-per-view. It's really a testament to how great it started to become, especially when it gives you chills like it did me. So for those of you who don't know, this NXT Respect was supposed to be what I had in mind for my first episode. I had this planned to be my first episode, but I don't exactly know what happened, And throughout the preceding weeks, I would tell myself, hey, maybe I should look at NXT Respect. Nah. Don't look at Respect. Don't do it. No. And then weeks would go by, and then I would sometimes write it down on a piece of paper, think about it. No. Once again, I'd throw it out, say no. I would get discouraged. But due to all the factual things that are happening to me right now, and the fact that I'm seeing all of this disrespect, there's that word again, in my life, and for that matter, hearing about Harvey Weinstein from a movie that I watched, I thought that if anything, now would be the best time to want to look at it. 65, 66 episodes later. Nonetheless, there's like 500 people at the Full Sail University chanting respect. Opening of a pay-per-view, it's a testament to how great that it is. It's how great that it is. Has it started to become, especially when it gives you chills. Seeing the legends of the past years showing respect and earning respect for that matter. So I did have a very lengthy, as you can see, we're almost 25 minutes in, and I did have a very lengthy opening planned where, of course, I was going to talk to you guys about respect and how it is that you could show more respect to the people around you in your life, or for that matter, ask you, the listener, when was the last time someone actually showed you some damn dignity and respect in your life? Can you remember when the last time that you were treated like a goddamn human being was? Because I can't. We get Dusty chants echoing through the arena, and I never found Dusty to be that entertaining myself. I'm not into 200 pound plus men who would walk around in polka dots, dancing like a buffoon, a moron, sounding like more of a southern version of Foghorn Leghorn when he cuts a promo. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I just disrespected Dusty Rhodes, and I know a lot of you right now are probably hating me, but before you turn that dial, before you say, oh man, and I really gave this guy 5 stars on Apple, on Amazon, on iHeartRadio.com, on Podchaser, and wherever you can find your podcast, before you turn this off and just decide to just rewrite your review and make me out to be a bad guy, remember that I grew up in a different time than you probably did. What it is though that you look at 70s wrestling as the golden age of professional wrestling, or the late 70s, early 80s of the golden age of professional wrestling. For me, I grew up not knowing who the hell Dusty Rhodes was. As a matter of fact, story time here, but whenever I was 11 years old and I seen Roddy Piper on my television screen for the first time, and I hate myself to this day because I said it aloud before I went to bed that night after I seen Roddy Piper for the first time. Vince McMahon was handing him some plaque or something like that. That's all that I remember. After McMahon handed that to him and shook his hand and he left the ring and everybody was chanting, Roddy Piper, something of that nature. Before I laid my head to that pillow, I said, man, I just can't stand these old guys. I wish Roddy Piper would just die already. And I got my wish around a year later. But now, I really wish I wouldn't have said that. And now, I feel responsible for the death of Roddy Piper. And I've told my friend, I've got maybe one or two friends who actually do watch professional wrestling, but that's it, that's it. I've told my friends that too. I feel responsible for the death of Roddy Piper, and they told me, it's not your fault. He died in natural causes. And then I said, yeah, I know. I'm the one who set my head to the pillow and said, I just wish the man would die already. He was too young, people. He didn't deserve it. I understand why they're chanting Dusty, because it's the Dusty Rhodes Invitational Classic. But for me, and I guess this is just my opinion, my irrelevant opinion, he never was someone to, congratulate on I'm going to put this in air quotes, a beautiful performance. A man that size who he could just sit on Ric Flair. That's all that he had to do was sit on Ric Flair. And everybody talks about Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, how their rivalry was so epic. No, what? You gotta be joking. They faced each other in a cage match maybe one time. There's no way that one cage match, Southern, somewhere, Southern States Wrestling or something. There's no way that one cage match actually makes the freaking rivalry stand out. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Do apologize. There's a huge pop in the crowd for Finn. They're chanting Finn. And it echoed throughout the arena because it's a small arena. It's only got like 500 people in it. Joe chants almost, or they're not as loud as the Finn chants. So the saga between Samoa Joe and Finn Balor goes something like this. Balor needed a tag team partner, and this is something that I don't understand because Balor was the champion, and he was at the time the NXT heavyweight champion. So you would figure that they would put him in a singles match against the number one contender, but they had this going on, and it was some sort of Dusty Rhodes tag team classic, and you're going to get the Dusty Cup, which is like some trophy that they're handing out to the winner of the inaugural match. And in this particular match, Finn Balor and Samoa Joe team up to face off against the Revival. Funny thing about the Revival, they would later go to AEW and change their name from the Revival to FTR, which stands for Fuck the Revival. Okay. Which I thought was funny because it started off as a meme. If I remember correctly, it was started by Adam Cole. According to Byron Saxton, tonight is going to be a magical night. or a night that you will tell your kids about, your grandkids. And I'm pretty sure now that 2015 is come and gone, no one remembers what happened on this particular night. But I recall a lot from this point in time. Not really this particular night, but I did watch this event whenever it happened, live and in color. So the only part that I didn't watch, not only for this review, but also for whenever it happened, was the pre-show. I didn't have any interest in watching the pre-show back then, and I don't have any interest in watching the pre-show now, because I'm still uncertain as to whether or not it's like 4 people sitting down and talking about, oh, and how about this match? And then they'll tell you all about the match just to try to sell you the pay-per-view within the next 30 minutes. So, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor faced off against the Revival, Scott Dawson, and Dash Wilder. So, we get the chants, Joe is going to kill you, NXT chants, let's go Finn. Oddly enough, whenever people say let's go, and then they like, let's go Cena, usually it's followed by Cena sucks. In this case, let's go Finn did not get any, Finn Balor sucks. Like that. Oh, god damn it. Some highlights would include Finn being isolated and the Revival taking over. No pun intended, because it is NXT TakeOver. The Revival stomp on the leg of Finn, and they do some beautiful tag team action work, and I gave this match 2.5 out of 5 stars. Keep in mind, this is one of only 3 matches that Finn and Samoa Joe have to compete in later on tonight. No, 1 of 2, rather. I'm sorry. Oh man, I swear, I got fleas. Some highlights. Okay, I already got that one. Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, round 2, and this is the semifinals of this tournament. Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, American Alpha, versus Rhino and Baron Corbin. Okay, so a few things wrong with this one in particular as well. I shouldn't say as well, but, a few things that I feel as though that commentary got out of hand at times. Gable chants, and he's a former NCAA Olympian, competed in the Olympics and took home an award. The award that he took home is never mentioned, but it's extremely it's not extremely specified that the match looks like a wonderful technical wrestling bout, if I'm being honest. All except for the fact that, Corbin and Rhino are trying to wrestle it at their pace. They're trying to make it all about power. And which brings me to my next point, which is the fact that they talk about how Chad Gable and Jason Jordan don't necessarily have the power to take out Rhino and Baron Corbin. So Corbin and Rhino might be about 300 pounds. They might be 295. They might be pushing 320, especially Rhino. But the point is that Corbin says shut up to the crowd. NXT chants. A commentary keeps bringing up the smaller guys. How does Jordan have the strength to pick up the taller, bigger, Baron Corbin, Rhino? Here's what I was trying to say, though, even though my notes just condensed it, and I'm so glad that I've got them here in front of me so that I don't get off the track, get off the rails or whatever. It's extremely hard, I guess, for commentary to believe that A man that's, let's say, 275, like Chad Gable, is picking up someone who gives up, or rather gets a lot of advantage in someone like Baron Corbin or Rhino, who might be, 305 or 325. And had that been the case, that's a huge gap, in your numbers. But see, they keep bringing up strength. They keep bringing up power. You don't need strength and you don't need power. It helps if you have it, but if you don't, in some cases, or in most cases, if you're Jason Jordan's size, 275, 280, pushing 280, if that, you can still pick up someone who's 300 pounds, 320 pounds, if that. All you have to do is use your techniques. But for some reason, they seem to throw out all the techniques, and they insult the viewer's intelligence, if anything. That's very disrespectful. There's that word again. But I swear, if you just use and utilize your waist, and your opponent's posture, and if you use your hips, you can, tell your opponent to fuck off and do German suplexes to them all day. You don't need pure, raw power. You don't need strength. Well, you do need it, but you don't exactly need it, And the only two that I could see on commentary that even have a retrospective small amount of wrestling background were were Byron Saxton and Corey Graves, but yet the two of them, for some reason, act as though that amateur wrestling backgrounds help you none. I gave this match 2.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that entertaining, honestly. The most entertaining part was probably the Jason Jordan and the Chad Gables, just being tagged in and out. And honestly, I didn't expect American Alpha to lose here. But they did. So that means that later on tonight, Baron Corbin and Rhino will face off against Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. I would have done this one a little bit differently. The next matchup on the card is Dana Brooke versus Asuka. So in this particular event, I put down some notes before the match even began. I proceeded to put my foot in my mouth, but I still put the notes up because for consistency reasons, and also to show that even us experts once in a while get it wrong. Like I thought I had Dana Brooke all figured out, and for that matter, I thought that I had WWE all figured out, especially around this right here. So I've got about 3 paragraphs to go by, but here's the condensed version, basically. I was under the impression that, seeing as though that they were doing all these great things and showing Asuka doing all these wonderful, wonderful, magnificent things, that she was going to have a strong opponent. An opponent that would make her look even better in comparison, regardless of whether she was to win or to lose. However, I didn't expect Dana Brooke to be that strong opponent. I thought for sure that Dana Brooke versus Asuka would be this squash match where Asuka maybe toys with her for 5 minutes, and then after that clotheslines her and then pins her. 1, 2, 3, game over. Oh, look at that. We made such short work of Dana Brooke. Who's Asuka going to face next? She looks so strong. And, no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. Because that didn't make her look any stronger than what it would have made her look had she would have won the championship over in Japan. NJPW's Women's Division's Championship. But I was wrong. And sometimes that happens. I'm not afraid to admit it. Sometimes it happens. But it's not going to happen too often. Whenever I said squash match, I was not expecting such an entertaining squash match, and I put squash match in air quotes. Dana Brooke pulled out all the stops, and you can tell that Dana Brooke is extremely talented and has an extreme sense of balance due to the instances that I've seen her practically hopping on one foot with. Dana Brooke is extremely athletic. She was choking Asuka in the corner with her foot while standing on her hands. Did you just hear what I said? She was choking Asuka with her foot while standing on her hands. How much balance that she has. God damn, that's a great match. All the hype surrounding Asuka. Now, here's what I said originally. All the hype surrounding Asuka gets flushed down the toilet because they decided to put her in a squash match against Dana Brooke. No pun intended. No disrespect. Because there's that word again, disrespect. This event is all about respect. No disrespect, however, to Dana Brooke, but I feel as though that Asuka should have had a higher caliber opponent for her debut surrounding the hype that was Asuka. However, I gave it 3.5 stars. I couldn't see myself giving it 4 stars out of 5. Just because even though it told a great story and both women put on a performance of a lifetime, Asuka didn't really, to my knowledge, didn't really know who her opponent was. It was just announced that week after week after week after week, they would just come out and say something like, "Oh, Asuka, ooh, 3 weeks away, ooh, Asuka, ooh, look at this wonderful new shiny object that we have, Asuka, ooh." And she would go on to be undefeated in the WWE for quite some time. Almost like Goldberg, except WCW for Goldberg. Not really WWE. Goldberg went on to be undefeated. According to Jericho, in his book, he literally says that they don't know what the exact count was for Goldberg's undefeated streak. They just kept making up numbers every week. So, some people say it's 2,000, other people say it's 905. They would just keep rattling off numbers that was not consistent at all. On her way out, on her way out of the ring, Emma couldn't even look at Asuka in her eye. She looked away like a submissive little puppy dog. But Asuka just kept staring at Emma. And we get a commercial for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, because at this point in time, it was October 2015. And I wrote this down on my notes here to bring up that John Cena gives them $1 million paycheck one time. That one time it wasn't last year, it was like 6 years ago or 7. Gave them $1 million. Those over-exaggerated checks that they practically give away or whatever? I bet it would feel extremely good to have like one of those over-exaggerated checks with like an over-exaggerated amount of money on it and then take a picture with it. I swear I'd be grinning, son. I'd be so happy. Oh my God. Anyway, there was something that I noticed here on this right here. You guys thought that you was going to get through a podcast episode without me making fun of Kevin Owens. Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's funny that they mention cancer because the last time I checked, that's Kevin Owens' first name, Cancer Owens. WWE puts a superstars in the commercial, and Sasha Banks in the commercial, despite her being a heel, despite her being a bad girl rather, she's in this commercial. I had a question though. And not Kevin Owens, everybody's hero, everybody's golden boy, Kevy Gravy Owens. He wasn't in this commercial. I wonder why Owens isn't in a lot of commercials / TV shows, movies. Bring it up that John Moxley was in the part 2 of John Cena's movie. That it was like 12 rounds 2. But that wasn't the name of the movie. It was called like More Rounds or something. The story about Finn Balor's leg and his leg health. It comes down to the health of his leg from earlier on in the night when the Revival basically took charge. They decided that it was a good idea to isolate Finn Balor in their corner and frequent tags, because that's the tag team machine that they are. The Revival, Scott Dawson, Dash Wilder. One time someone even asked Dash on Twitter, they said something along the lines of Dash Wilder sounds like a really bad 80s porn star name or something like that. I was like, wow. Either that or it sounds like, I'm pretty sure they said something like it sounds like a stepdad name or something, you know. Like just some cartoon character, you know, Dash Wilder. A story about, okay. And then we get the Nia Jax promo. You know what? Good for Nia Jax. Good for Nia Jax. She got in the company, she left the company. But do you know why she left the company? It's because she got humiliated online thanks to the fact that I was told that she was The Rock's cousin, but I could be wrong about that. After being in the WWE for so long, she quit due to being humiliated from one clip of her slipping on the ring apron and saying the phrase, "Ouch, my hole." And then she's presumably grabbing her own butt whenever she's saying it. She also lost a lot of weight, and after she has since quit the WWE, and in later interviews has said stuff like she doesn't plan on coming back. As we go to our next event, Tyler Breeze versus Apollo Crews. Breeze and Crews both practically put on a spectacle, but I don't remember there being any sort of hype around this match itself. And it's sad to think of what they did with Apollo Crews after this. Because after this, and then years would go by, but once Apollo Crews came to the WWE, and I guess they just thought that he was too boring, or that a man coming out to the ring and smiling is not a personality. And for whatever reason, they said that he was the king of Nigeria, or a Nigerian prince, and they gave him a bodyguard named Omos, who's like twice as tall as, Apollo. And for whatever reason, they decided that it was a good idea to basically disrespect Apollo Crews. There's that word again. And don't worry, the disrespect stops now. The line has been crossed, and if I'm right, after our main event, we will see the disrespect come to an end. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking right now, right? I know exactly what you're thinking. You're like, okay, so this must be the main event, right? We're practically 50 minutes into the podcast. I mean, what more could we ask for? Why? Do you think that I'm just going to lowball you with more Kevin Owens jokes? Okay, so I gave Tyler Breeze versus Apollo Crews 4 out of 5 stars, but the match was kind of short. It was a really good back and forth, but like most matches in this category, as tonight, they were too short. I think Cody Rhodes did it better. And, oh yeah, so Tyler Breeze plays this titular pretty boy. He comes out to the ring all the time, and, you know, if you've ever heard his theme music, you know how obnoxious that is. Look, everybody, it's Tyler. And then it's like, oh, everybody loves my pretty face. And then he comes out to the ring with a selfie stick. And honestly, the first time I watched this, that was the first fucking time I'd ever seen a selfie stick. And I'd always wonder, why is his phone attached to that really big, you know, like I don't think that I would trust that with my phone. And whenever he's coming down to the ring, believe it or not, he's on Facebook Live. So that's one way to get like a lot of people to be like, oh, what's this video? And then seeing some handsome man strutting to the ring, and I put handsome man in air quotes because he's not handsome. You know, I'm not calling him handsome, but you know, I mean, I can see why people do call him handsome, and now something's going to open on my fucking computer. Can you believe it? I don't know why. I didn't ask for it to open. Now we come to the final round as to the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic as Samoa Joe, and Finn Balor face off against Rhino and Baron Corbin. I hate this fucking computer. Finn is maybe 200, 225, and yet he's wrestling guys at this time who outweighed him by 95 to 120 pounds in Corbin and Rhino. Why that's extremely dangerous. Yeah, there's a reason that we have weight classes. Why that's extremely dangerous. They've talked about in the beginning of the competition that tonight is about respect. When Finn Balor's leg starts to get targeted by attacks, Corey Graves just throws that all out the window because he decides that it's a good idea to not talk about respect. Whenever one of the other commentators mentions the fact that tonight's supposed to be about, quote, respect, Corey Graves, on the other hand, seems to retract his previous statement that he made earlier on in the night. Whenever he said that tonight was about respect, he said, screw respect. Tonight's not about respect. Tonight's all about making a statement. Tonight's about winning, or something like that. All because Finn Balor got his leg caught in a vice. And that vice's name is Baron Corbin. Is trying to work Finn Balor over. And I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was a great match, but it looked slow at times. And really, I would prefer it to be a fast-paced match, almost like you're not missing a beat no matter where you go. So once they get in the ring and once they get awarded the trophy, and I don't know if I talked about it already, but Samoa Joe and Finn Balor had a deal. And the weeks preceding this right here, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor's deal practically gets thrown out the window thanks to William Regal. But Joe and Balor had a deal which was, if you help me win the Dusty Rhodes inaugural Tag Team Classic, Joe, I'll give you a title shot. And then they shake hands on it, and then he says, you got a deal. So you should have seen it coming. It was to set up a story, but it took them 6 months to fucking do it. You know, it took them 6 months to get to this point. This was a 6-month tag team tournament from what commentators say. And then once they get into the ring, though, and so do Dusty Rhodes' children, and a woman that they refer to as Eden Styles, but that's not her name. For the love of God, WWE, it's Brandy Rhodes. Why can't she just be Brandy Rhodes? But Dusty's children get into the ring, and Cody shares a few insights. He also says something that I didn't know was true, whether or not it is true or not. Apparently on the 65th anniversary of John Wayne's death, his dad died. Which I thought was somewhat weird, but also he said that his dad's favorite actor was John Wayne in the same breath. So I don't know what to make of that. But once they start playing Dusty Rhodes' music and you start hearing sound clips from him and they start showing black and white pictures, it's it's going too far, man. It's not about Dusty Rhodes, and I get it. The wrestling community, maybe they miss him. I don't know why. I never understood why he's the son of a plumber or chicken hawks and beer, cowboy hats and rope. Come on. Your personality can't be, I once danced in front of a camera and I'm 200 plus pounds. Sit down. Sit the fuck down. I don't care if you're a wrestling legend. Sit the fuck down. You don't belong here. As Baylee, our main event for the night, and I know it's ironic. It's so ironic because now I'm disrespecting Dusty Rhodes. As Baylee versus the boss, Sasha Banks. They show highlights from the 8/22/2015, the first match between Sasha and Baylee, which took place in New York. This one is taking place here in Full Sail University in Florida, if I remember correctly. You can tell Baylee is really green in her promo skills. They're amateurish, but they're still delivered quite well. She still does really good promo work. That's what I think anyway. Baylee, this isn't a fairy tale. You're a little girl, and I'm a woman. And do you know what happens to women who fight little girls? Sasha Banks is really laying it on Baylee, laying it on thick. Because everyone knows that a woman would kick a little girl's ass. Even though I don't think that that's appropriate to say, in the context of a wrestling match. Hey, we're going to have a wrestling match. You're 6 years old and I'm 23, We see Baylee do the elbow in the corner from the Tree of Woe. We see Sasha with the Tope Suicida, which my phone apparently did not spell correctly, which threw me off. Sasha Banks locking in the crossface that she calls the bank statement. A reverse Hurricanrana, or it could be a reverse Frankensteiner. Now, I'm not really sure what the difference between a Frankensteiner and a Hurricanrana is, but if I had to guess, I would say the fact that the Frankensteiner is done off the top rope and the Hurricanrana can practically be done anywhere, and it can even be turned into a pin. if I remember correctly. So I'm going to say that it's an avalanche reverse Frankensteiner from the top rope, and hence the word avalanche. Then Baylee to win. Just a few of the highlights from the previous match that they've had. After the match highlights, they show Sasha gets up and hugs Baylee. Then Sasha showed up, hugs Baylee, and goes on to say that on that night, Baylee earned my respect. For some reason it says shows respect. Like, Baylee earned shows respect. That makes no sense. Now Banks wants a rematch, and she says in an interview, not in an interview, but in a promo, that I don't want to beat you once, Baylee. I want to be able to beat you again and again and again and again. And then she just goes on and on, like again and again, until you can't stand anymore. So, what's the solution for someone who's that bloodthirsty? For someone who wants to disrespect, there's that word again. For someone who wants to disrespect someone so bad, what's the solution? Do you put them in a cage? Nah, that'll never work. There I am scratching my head again, trying to figure out how to get myself out of this situation that I'm in. She's like, I want to beat you over and over and over and over again. So Sasha says she wants an Iron Man match. 30 minutes on the clock. Talk about the evolution of Sasha Banks and the evolution of Baylee. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the 10th Iron Man match in WWE history. That's hard to believe. That's hard to believe. The company at this point in time had probably been around for 60 years, and maybe even longer, 70 years if anything. 1970s, I mean, what is that? Like at least 40 years? But I mean, that's not counting the days of the WWF, or for that matter, the inaugural company that they started as. So, if that were the case, company's almost been around for 100 years, and there's only been 10 recorded Iron Man matches, and this is the first women's Iron Man match, and it's the first time that they're main eventing a headline pay-per-view. Oh, that wasn't WrestleMania, because of course that would happen too. Everyone's chanting women's wrestling. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about the evolution of Sasha Banks and Baylee. So Baylee's evolution is that of almost the fairy tale story, somewhat similar to Alexa Bliss's. You know, we've talked about Bliss before, the fact that she came out, she used to be somewhat of a tutu-wearing fairy. In some cases, that's what some people may or may not have referred to her as. She would come out blowing glitter at all the crowd and all the fans, and you know, she just acted like this wholesome little Christian girl, and one day she just woke up, I guess you could say. Baylee, I suppose, could be compared to Alexa in that respect, that one day she just wanted to be everyone's hero, but little did she know that eventually being everyone's hero makes you their worst enemy. And I mean, not everybody's going to like you. I hate to say that, but it's true. Not everybody is going to like you. There's going to be someone out there that says fuck you, and they're basically going to tell you why they want you to fuck off. And if you're trying to please everybody, you're not going to end up being yourself. Baylee figured this out, though. Eventually, she went from this I want a hug type of girl to just this ruthless, aggressive attitude that she has now. And it's almost like, I mean, I'm not watching her stuff with Dakota Kai or Io Shirai. Don't tell me her name's Io Sky, because it's not. That's just something for the children. Fuck the children. You know, I don't want to fuck children, don't get me wrong, but, you know, just screw the children. And I'm not saying that in a literal sense. You know what? Forget it. Forget the children. How does that sound? Yep, just erase them from my mind. There are no children. No children were harmed in the making of this episode. But anyway, what I mean to say is that the evolution of both Baylee and Sasha Banks, and throughout this match, the crowd is really passionate. They'll say stuff like, chanting women's wrestling before the match even starts, and the two women in question, Baylee and Sasha Banks, end up just staring each other down for the first 3 minutes of the match. That's how intense that it is. You can feel the intensity. They're chanting, "You deserve it," talking either about the main event spotlight or Baylee being champion, NXT chants, Corey Graves on commentary. Thanks to the passion in the crowd for being loud. Yeah, I can't hear Corey Graves on commentary. So, back whenever Sasha first started, the crowd used to do this thing wherever, and I don't know who started it. I don't know whether Sasha started it or one of Sasha's first protagonists. One of Sasha's first rivalries. Because you see, back in the 90s, Edge did a certain something wherever he looked at Kurt Angle and he said, well, in order to understand what's happening today, or rather at this point in time in 2015, you're going to have to understand this. Edge looked at Kurt Angle in the middle of the ring one time, and Kurt Angle was at the ramp, at the entrance ramp, and Edge was at the entrance ramp, and Kurt Angle was in the middle of the ring. It's not the point. And Edge said, "These people shouldn't be chanting, 'You suck,' every time that you talk, Kurt. You know what they should chant?" And then he goes, "They should chant what?" So every time that Kurt Angle would speak, and he said previously in interviews and stuff like that, even though he's grown up now, back whenever he was young, he was very hot-headed, and he didn't want these people to disrespect him. And every time that he would speak, every time that Kurt Angle, he couldn't say a word edgewise, because everything that he said, these people would go, "What? What?" They would all chant "what" in unison. And it was so funny. It was so hilariously funny. Sasha kind of had the same energy. Because you see, when Sasha was in a wrestling match, her early NXT days, people would chant Sasha's ratchet. Now, I don't know what it means to be ratchet. Really, I don't. But it would be followed by another group of people who would chant, "No, she's not." So, either she's ratchet or she's not. And I'm not from the hood, so I don't know what ratchet means. If I call someone ratchet, is it an insult? But we keep getting that chant, "Sasha's ratchet. No, she's not. Sasha's ratchet. No, she's not." Sasha gets the first fall 10 minutes into the contest, and Corey Graves says Baylee has to beat her twice to walk away with the championship. But that's not true. 2 weeks ago we looked at another Iron Man match between Bobby Roode and AJ Styles. In this match in particular, AJ ties with Bobby Roode, and Roode ends up walking away 10 seconds before the bell rings. Whenever you tie, Sasha gets the first fall within 10 minutes in the contest, right? She's up 1 point. Corey Graves says the stupidest shit. He says that Baylee has to beat her twice in order to walk away still champion. No, he doesn't. All she has to do is beat Sasha once. If she can tie the score and then play Ring Around the Rosie and keep the pace like I used to do back in WWE 2K14, she wins the match. Or she ties it, but she keeps her title. And in which case Sasha would just be like, Baylee, the only thing you did was survive, and they would set up for another match. But see, that's long-term booking. That's beautiful storytelling. That's, I don't know if you heard it or not, but I just kind of like that spicy meatball, That's exactly what that is. But within the first 10 minutes of the contest, I already said that. And then we're tied 1-1, 11 minutes in. 15 minutes, we're at the halfway point of the match, and Sasha already has 2 points up on Baylee. And what does she do? The most disrespectful thing you can ever do to a professional wrestler or their loyal fan base. There's a little girl sitting front row, and she's always had a front row ticket to a seat in an event that features Baylee, because she's a Baylee fan. Her name is Izzy. Okay? Anyway, Sasha Banks is such a good heel. She gets Izzy to cry because she takes Izzy's headband away from her. The camera doesn't really show Sasha. More or less, it shows the little girl crying, and her parents her parents kind of like embracing the little girl who's crying. Sasha Banks is such a good heel, man, because she made this little girl cry. Sasha's ratchet chants, no she's not, mocking Baylee 14 minutes in, as 14 minutes are left on the clock, and Sasha is 2 points up, and Baylee only has 1, so Sasha's 2 points, she's got 2 falls, and Baylee's only got the 1 fall. Sasha goes for a dive to the outside and gets caught by Baylee, and Baylee hits her with the Baylee to belly from out there, and then tries to get the count out for the next fall. We get an Iron Woman chant, and there's 3 minutes left on the clock as Banks gets her foot on the rope to break the 3 count off of an avalanche Baylee to belly. Baylee wins 3-2. She would have won either way. Like, I don't see what so the crutch of the match, I just got done watching it, believe it or not, but the crutch of the match is the fact that Baylee wins like 6 seconds before the bell rings. They wouldn't go to sudden death. Who has time for sudden death? Like, they wanted to celebrate. They wanted the confetti, even though they didn't have confetti. Much like, 3 weeks, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, whenever we looked at New Year's resolution, whenever Edge won off of John Cena, there was no confetti. Edge barely cried at all, but he did cry because you had a monkey working the camera that kept wanting to look at the crowd and all of their facial reactions. Screw the crowd. Look at this man. He just won the championship for practically the first time in his entire fucking career. Pay attention to him, You guys can hear it. It's the passion in my voice. The voice that I'm losing, by the way, and it's almost midnight. Not the point, you know. But Baylee wins. The score ends up reflecting 3-2. You know, had it would have been me, though, this match would have been done a lot differently. Sasha would have got yet another rematch. But I see what they were going for. They were going for Askua, obviously, versus Baylee, is what it seems like. Because Askua took out Danna, Brooke, and Emma, and they would no longer be a thorn in her side, seeing as though that she already beat them, and she already made her debut, and you want the strongest contender for the strongest champion. But had it been me, I would have let Askua stir a little bit in the NXT pool. Meanwhile, I would keep this rivalry going with Baylee and Sasha Banks because it's caught fire and people love it. You should have heard the crowd here, even though it was 400 people. Apparently, according to them, it was 400 people, which isn't a lot compared to like their Madison Square Gardens and, you know, other venues that they've sold out. WrestleMania 21, for instance, had a reported 17,953 people, which I'm sure was, you know, just Michael Cole inflating the numbers. I'm sure it was like 3,200 people, if that. Not the point, though. Once again, I pose a question to everyone here. If you haven't seen this event, if you haven't taken the time to maybe just be like, you know what, maybe NXT Respect is worth it. Like I said, it was going to be my first ever episode, but I kept putting it off. I kept saying, no thanks. You know, I'd already seen it one time. Why do I need to see it again? Everything from the hype packages to it shows these women like working, like all of the struggles that they went through in order to get to this point. And in case you don't know, there are layers, and I mean fucking layers to this. I never watched Breaking Ground, but it was a WWE series that happened where apparently Sasha and Baylee got to know each other very well. I think that it's funny that it's called Breaking Ground instead of Groundbreaking or something. But it's like a training session or some sort of competition between Baylee and other women. But I caught highlights of it. I never really caught the actual... like the previews would show like Baylee hugging Sasha and then saying that was some good work. You know. It never really appealed to me, so I never really watched it. And once again, like I said, I'm getting off subject. Baylee and Sasha crying, and the NXT roster presents flowers to both Baylee and Sasha as a beautiful performance comes to a close. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. As the crowd is... I'm sorry. The crowd is chanting, "Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Sasha." Because she put on a legendary performance. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me at this episode of the Gut Wrench Podcast. And now I would close things off the way that I usually do, with some sarcastic remark, or for that matter, by doing such stick. But I feel as though that if I was to do that, it would be very disrespectful. I'm sorry. I can't do it this time. For some of you who stick around for the stick, I do apologize. You're not going to get your stick this week. It would be disrespectful. There's that word again. Thank you all so much for joining me, and as always, good night, everybody. And that's a wrap.